All right. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, today's kind of like a bad news talk. This is not gonna. You're not gonna be praising me and saying, "Man, this was inspiring." Today. So everybody knows the series that we're covering. Does everybody know the series? Is there announcements? So we're starting at what type of series? Anyway, Christian dating. Christian dating. But before we get to Christian dating, we all have to understand why we date. We date with the end purpose of being united through the sacrament of marriage. I want to paint today a very real picture of marriage. And I'm going to go over several myths that are assumed in marriage. And people have these thoughts from when they are zero. And culture and society and TV and everything gives you the impression that these myths are true, even though the results of marriage are not displaying the truth. I'm going to give you guys some statistics. So there was a survey of Christian singles. Christian marriages. And it said 50 to 60% of these people said these comments, the following, after the first year of marriage. Number one is that the number of arguments in a relationship had changed after marriage. So it's not like you're engaged for a year, you fight every once in a while, you get a little bit bickering here, a little bit of a bad mood here. That changes after marriage. Don't think that what you have during dating or engagement is going to be an exact replica of what's going to happen during marriage. Also is that their tendency to be critical of one another changed. So the tendency of being critical increases substantially. Their feelings of self-confidence changed. Pay attention to all these factors. Relationship with their own family changed. Their attitude toward work changed. 40 to 50% of the whole group that was surveyed had occasional doubts whether their marriage would last. And they had significant beliefs that it was going to end. 40 to 50% of the group said they doubted whether it was going to last, and most of them said it probably won't last. In the same survey, there was many people who had regrets about being married, as there were people that were in the survey. So let's just say there were 50 people that were surveyed. They found that there were 50 people that said they regretted being married in the survey. Why am I telling you all these very inspiring statistics? Because marriage is it's the real deal. Marriage is not like good guy, good girl, get to know each other, common goals, everything works out. So many things change in your life. Relationship with your family. Nobody really thinks that, maybe you have a really close sister or brother, or you're really close to mom and dad. You're going to be close, but in a different way, for sure. You will not have the same level of connection or bond with your sibling, and we have twins in the room. Would you say you're as close or bonded with your brother? Not to say that you don't have that bond. But has your relationship with your brother changed since both of you guys have gotten married? Sorry to put you on the spot. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. And I know twins that they do everything together. They are just, they're attached to each other together. And when one got married, the whole dynamic changed. The whole dynamic changed, and these are twins. So you can only imagine how much your relationship with your family will change after marriage. That's something that's the basic good example. Marriage is not a 50-50 proposition between a guy and a girl. It's sometimes you get 90% and you give 10. Sometimes you give 90 and you get 10%. So marriage is not just this we live happily ever after kind of picture. Again, I'm going to go through some myths, and my examples may be like, you're going to be like, what's he talking about? Like, how's his marriage? I don't want to tell you, I don't want you to think that like my marriage is serious, I'll be like, make sure you don't really feel that like our marriage is like. I just want to give us good understanding of really what marriage is. The concept of forever has to be a reality in your mind. Forever means forever. To the day we die. Nowadays, unfortunately, look at like statistics. It's no longer till death do us part. It's till divorce do us part. That's really sad news. I'm going to say this, and I want everyone to take it and understand it the right way. If maybe some people, they feel like I have to be married, maybe I feel lonely, maybe I'm going to get depressed if I'm not married, all these things. I would rather you be depressed and single than divorced and depressed. You understand? I would rather you be single and quote-unquote lonely and depressed than divorced, lonely and depressed. It's a whole nother level of misery. Okay, not to say that being single is misery. No. But if you put in your mind, and you're telling, I have to get married because the state I'm in is just not ideal, it's not the fulfillment of my dreams, I want to change your mentality to say, marriage is not, we're going to get through the myths, we'll get through that. Many people who get into marriage don't realize that marriage is not just like a full-time job. It's a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day a week, all year, like work in progress. At all times, you have to be alert of meeting the other spouse's needs and trying to create an environment in the house where everybody can just kind of keep stability. You're like, really? That's what marriage is all about? I don't want you to get the wrong picture, but I want you to get the real picture. I'm not going to paint the pretty picture of marriage today. I'm going to just kind of show you kind of the true pictures of what you're going to see no matter who you marry, Prince Charming or not. Every marriage is plagued with a misconception of what marriage should be. There's 4 misconceptions that we're going to talk about. Number 1 is that we expect, so people have this misconception, is that we expect exactly the same thing from marriage. So that the man and the woman have the same expectations from the marriage. That is a misconception. Number 2, that everything good in our relationship will get better. Misconception. If you think it's good now, and just wait till we get married because it's going to skyrocket. Misconception. Everything bad in my life will disappear if I get married. Another misconception. And another one that everybody feels like this for sure has to be true, that my spouse makes me whole. That your spouse, no matter who and how awesome and how great and how dreamy that person is, they will not be able to make you whole. And I think a lot of people think like, there's something missing from my life. If I get married, that hole or that gap is going to be met and I'm going to feel like a complete person. It can happen while you're married, but marriage is not necessarily the answer to that. The goal of this talk is to take the mythology out of marriage. It's to give everybody a real picture of what you're going to get into when you meet Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, or Mr. Wrong or Mrs. Wrong. And just to know what you're getting into, that there are bads. I just want to paint a picture that is real. There are bads, and there are very bads, and then there are just not goods, and there are greats. There's all kinds of things, but I want us just to kind of, I think most people, before they're married, have these ideas that like marriage is just the answer to life. Especially if I find the number one guy in the world. Recently, in the last maybe 3 weeks, I've been getting, ever since I've been a priest, friends from home or people who know me or who have been close to me as a friend now say, maybe we can open up to him and he's an Abuna, maybe. So I'm getting a lot more bad news now that I'm a priest. I'm aware of just in the last 3 weeks of 5 couples, our generation, who have been married less than 5 years, that are in the process of getting divorced, of which 4 of them have one member in the family that's a servant, one member of the couple that is like a servant in the church. So I'm not talking about 2 people that have no clue about anything about God, and these people are just messed up, and of course they're going to go down this road. These are people that might have their spiritual lives intact, might not have their spiritual lives intact, and are going to end up in divorce. And as much as they're trying to fight it, one member in the relationship wants out, and that's it. Can't handle it anymore. Too long, marriage has been saddled with these wrong expectations. So that's kind of what I'm going to discuss. Myth number one, we expect exactly the same thing from marriage. What we anticipate seldomly occurs, and what we least expect happens a lot more often. Okay? I'm going to read it again. What we anticipate seldomly occurs. So what you anticipate in marriage will seldomly occur. And what we least expect generally happens more often. Okay? What you least expect in marriage generally happens more often. I'm going to give you a story of John and Jane. They both assumed they had the same picture of marriage. So again, we're talking about myth number one. We expect exactly the same thing from marriage. They both thought they were painting from the same palette, but they didn't realize that one was using pastels and one was using, dark colors. And they weren't the most complementing colors in their marriage. They thought they were painting that they had painted this picture of marriage. So I'm going to give you a story. You have to understand that everything in your life, from when you're a child, from the way that you watch your parents, the types of TV shows that you watch, the movies that you've watched, the story tale things that you've read, all these have built up these ideas of what marriage is. So if you used to watch the Cosby Show when you were younger, you think that when I get married, I'm going to be like Bill and, what's her name? Claire. And everything is going to be perfect. They're going to have the little quarrels they have, but they're going to make up and kiss at night, and everything's going to be perfect. Or whatever it may be, whatever you used to watch when you were growing up, you're thinking, this is what marriage is like. Maybe, when you see, hopefully it's not Desperate Housewives. Maybe your concept of marriage is built on what you saw in your parents. So a dear friend of mine, a saint is a small word to describe her. Like, if I were to call her saint, that would not be doing justice to really how amazing this person is. In the way that she loves her husband, the way that she loves her children, the way that she loves God, her commitment to her faith, the way that she works. She's just, listen, Salim, she's awesome. Her husband isn't so awesome. Her husband is violent, and he's aggressive, and he insults the kids, he insults the wife, and puts the kids down. Kid woke up in the morning, hair was messed up, went to go say hi to dad, and said, "What are you doing with your hair? You look ugly, get away from me." This was the first thing that he heard after good morning from his dad. I'm close to the boy, I'm very close to the boy, and I've built a relationship with him. And I consider him like an orphan. And I told him, consider me like your father. Consider me like your dad. I want you to open up, and I want you to talk when you're upset, and when you're not upset. I want you to share with me. He said, and he always texts me saying, "You're my favorite big brother." And in the past, I told him, "I'm like your dad. Just feel open and be honest with me." He said, "I don't want to call you dad. Dad would be like an insult. To call you dad would just be not a good picture." So when he tells me this boy, when he gets married and becomes a dad, becomes a husband, has already this picture of what roles he's going to fulfill, what roles his mom is going to fulfill. So in the first year of John and Jane, what she thought was going to be stability in her life, he thought was boring. And what he thought and what she said, so he said, I wanted our marriage to be exciting and spontaneous and not a routine. To me, it meant riding a motorcycle together. Like when he thinks of marriage, we're going to be just going down the freeway on a motorcycle, and it's going to be like this. She thought something stable, something calm, something like we're going to be planting a garden together. So now you can imagine, she has this like, you are going to be the guy that we're going to just be planting garden together. And he's thinking, we're going to be living the life. We're going to be living the wild life. They get married. Now you can just imagine how their expectations are not being met. So, in every relationship, there are unspoken rules and unconscious rules. Again, everybody has a set of rules that they have set in their minds when it comes to a relationship. For example, couple, newly married, went to go spend Christmas with the family, with the in-laws. You know, they travel from the East Coast to the West Coast. They get there late at night. They sleep, wake up in the morning. Wife wakes up really early in the morning to spend all this quality time with her family. She just wants to, like, eat breakfast with them and all this stuff. And hubby's sleeping in. And she is livid. How can you sleep in? We haven't seen my parents for so long, and you're coming, you're sleeping in, and like, this is what we do on Christmas holiday season. We wake up, we eat breakfast together, we tell all the stories, we do all these things. It's like, hey man, I'm a little jet lagged. Can you let me sleep in a little? Let me take a shower, and I'm gonna come down and hang out with your family. But give me time. He's thinking, on vacation, what we do is we relax, we kick back, we just sleep in. We do these things. Is he doing anything wrong? What happened is, she set a rule that she never spoke out loud. He set a rule of what we do on vacation is we relax. My parents, we go on vacation. When we were younger, we would, all of us stay in the same hotel room, and Dad was the type that would, like, at 6 o'clock in the morning, open the shades, sun is beaming down on us. All right, kids, we're going to go play tennis, we're walking the beach, and all this stuff. We're just like, no way. Like, I am not waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Dad is up at like 5:30, ready to go enjoy the day. Mom's relaxing. We're not on the same page here. Family's already starting around. So we have unspoken rules. People set rules in their marriage that they never actually said. And one day, if God gives you a spouse and chooses that route for you, one thing you have to understand in marriage is that everything needs to be communicated. Everything. If it's a rule that we wake up early, before we get there, we have to say, okay, we're going to California, sweetheart, and we are going to wake up, the crack of dawn to hang out with my parents and eat breakfast and all this stuff. It's got to be on the table from day one. She has to know this. She doesn't think that this is going to be lazy time, and we're going to sleep in, and we're going to do our own thing and hang out with our own friends, when my mentality is we are spending 100% of the time with my parents. These are rules that need to be spoken. Communication is the number one destroyer of marriages. Number one destroyer. People do not know how to communicate their needs. So there's times where me and Sherry will be discussing, I'll be doing something maybe is upsetting Sherry, and Sherry will wait till it gets to a certain point and then just blow up. And I'm like, what just happened? And she's like, you mother, you didn't pick up your Galabaya, and you all this stuff. And I'm thinking, you didn't tell me to pick up my Galabaya. And she should have said, after day one of Abuna throwing Galabaya on the floor, said, by the way, please hang up your Galabayas. Day two, Abuna does it again. We don't hang up, we don't throw our Galabayas on the floor. They're taking up all the space. But if she waits till day 10, that's it. Every day she's looking at her, her blood is boiling because maybe she has OCD and she can't stand seeing anything on the floor. This is just a hypothetical situation. Sherry. Communication is something that's very important. Unconscious rules. What are unconscious rules? Unconscious rules. What are our unconscious rules? So, have a couple, newly married, come back from the honeymoon, setting up the apartment. Husband is carrying the dining table. He says, honey, where do you want this? And she says, I don't know, where do you want it? And he says, where do you want this to go? And she says, I don't know, make a decision, choose where you want it to go, and put it there. And they go back and forth, they're yelling at each other and bickering at each other. And this is why. What are these unconscious rules? Well, the girl, her dad, was the handy-manny kind of guy that can fix everything and has like a decorative touch to his style of doing things. And so he knew how to do that, and mom was just like, let me know how I can help, and I'll help you. Guy, his dad was like an executive type who didn't know how to fix a thing in the house, and the woman was the one that just made all the decisions. I don't care, I just bring him the money. And so here the guy is thinking, tell me where to put it, and I'll put it. I don't know where to put it. Because he's thinking, mom, woman in the house, decorates the house the way she wants to decorate the house. And that's it. She's thinking, my dad, or the dad of the house, or the husband of the house, is the handy-manny guy, and he's got the decorative touch, and she's going into the marriage, and he's going into the marriage thinking that they have these rules. These are unconscious rules. She's playing the role of man does this, woman does this. He's playing the role of man does this, woman does this. Why am I saying all this stuff? What does it have to do with anything? There are myths that when you get together, we think alike. No, we don't think alike. Yeah, you may love attending Bible studies together. We have a couple in our church. They're a funny couple. The guy loves sports, and the girl likes sports. So he thought, man, my wife is going to, be my recreational companion. She's going to come and watch the Laker games with me and all this stuff, and it's going to be awesome. But what she didn't know about his love for sports is all he thinks, breathes, eats, drinks, sleeps is like statistics of he wants to TiVo, and he wants to hear every comment that is said. He wants to know how long this guy's contract is going to be in this team, and this he knows every detail. And every Laker game, or football game, or whatever it may be, he's going to come home early. He may not even attend church on Sunday afternoon because, so-and-so football team is playing, and that's just how we do it. He's thinking, when I married her, she likes sports. She's thinking, not to the same intensity that you do. I can sit down, watch a quarter, I can watch a fourth quarter. So Monica Simone came up last night and watched the Laker game, and I'm like, why is nobody listening to what's going on? She's thinking, when it gets to the fourth quarter, the last 30 seconds, we'll watch. Last 10 minutes. I'm thinking, no, we're watching the Laker game, meaning we are watching the Laker game. No kids, no wives, nothing. We don't know each other right now. This is just friendship. I'm thinking she's coming to watch the Laker game, or maybe she's going to hang out for the Laker game. She doesn't have a clue of what I mean when I say we are watching the Laker game.
I'm not a practical person.
Okay. So these unconscious roles of being the planner, who's the shopper, who's the money keeper, whoever it may be, you're going into a relationship that you may think you are perfectly compatible and you think the same, but it may not be to the same intensity that the other has. Okay? Myth number 2, everything good in our relationship will get better. Not the truth. Not the truth. So there's another couple. Excellent girl, big time servant, loves the Lord with her whole heart, good guy, goes to church, attends the services and all this stuff. And he's not a fanatic. Church is her life, service is her life. Well off career, he's doing very well, doing excellent. He comes into the marriage thinking, I am going to rock your world with all the awesome things that we are going to have in our life. Beautiful house, on a Ferrari, awesome vacations, we're going to bond together, has all these wonderful things going on. And he goes to the meetings with her. After a while, she wants to go to Saturday night youth meetings or whatever it may be. She wants to do all these things. He's saying like, go to the youth meetings, but it's good weather today. We just spent X amount of money on a boat. Let's go boating. His priorities of church they were there. I mean, he loves God, but not as intense as she is. Now, as things get further in the marriage, he's thinking, you're a fanatic. I'm not. She's thinking, when is he going to get there? When she got married, you think, he'll get there one day. He'll be a servant. Like, he'll taste it one day. Do not ever enter into a relationship or ever expect that one day you can change your spouse. Again, do not think you can change your spouse. You're thinking, but I know how to reach him. I know how to reach her. I'm talented. Like, we're connected enough for me to influence him or her. Not the truth. Know what you're getting. If he or she is halfway spiritual, then know that it may take a very long time. And it may be the work of the Holy Spirit on the day that he dies, and he is going to be the same devout Christian that you may be. Or devout in the same way that you are. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's not devout. It means he's not big on the meetings. Maybe he'll give money to the poor. Like crazy, but don't make me attend the Bible study. I don't like that stuff. These are things that have to be known in a relationship. So every marriage requires necessary losses and necessary gains. So you are going to go into a marriage and you are going to have to count some losses. You have to count the cost. There are some things that you are just going to toss out the window. And you're saying, not my relationship. We're compatible. You have to know that there are some things, I don't care what they are, whether it be cleanliness, whether it be sports shows, whatever it may be, there are some things that you're going to have to toss out the window when you get into a relationship. Like, man, there's a lot of sacrifice involved in this. It kind of stinks. It costed Adam a rib. Okay? Not the easiest thing to let go. A lot of people have this idealized image of their partner. He or she is perfect. When you go and you see them in the house, 24 hours a day, or whatever it may be, you get home from work at 5 o'clock p.m., you go to sleep at 11 p.m., and you spend 7 hours, and you wake up in the morning, and all day Saturday, and all day Sunday, and you see this person 24 hours, you're going to find something that may not be ideal. Like what? What do you guys think? What do you think that you could possibly see that may not be ideal that you thought you never saw before? Of course, me and Sherry have a perfect relationship. Take a stab at it.
I think the example that you used about maybe wrapping it up with the energy levels or the expectations of like doing things, but you start off very independent. So if I start my mornings off at 6 a.m. on a Saturday and do all these things, and then you start off your Saturdays together, and the other starts at 11, it's pretty big. There are disparities in schedules and how you do things. That's an adjustment.
What about love life? What else here? Everybody, in their minds, thinking that the love intimacy thing is just going to be this lifelong love relationship. They say, I'm going to read it. An expert said this. He said that the feeling of ecstatic love sooner or later dies down after 2 or 3 years. The whole we just want to be intimate 24 hours a day. Whenever we get the chance, we want to be intimate. That part dies down. So, men are physically driven. They're thinking in their minds, for the rest of our lives, we're going to have this awesome love life, and that's why I'm choosing this specific person, because she looks this specific way. Let's just say the great level of intimacy that you are dreaming about goes out the door in 2 or 3 years. Do you think, I'm not saying that you are not going to be intimate, I'm saying the level of intimacy, of sexual intimacy, may not be because of different peaks in a man, different peaks in a woman's age and all this stuff. It's going to change. So if your number one goal is, not number one goal, but if one of your goals is like sexual intimacy, and you think like, I'm going to just, this is a must. It is a must, but it better not be 100% of, it better not be 80%, it better not be 70% of why you are going out with person A or B. Okay? Does that mean that because the intimacy is going on after 2 or 3 years, sexual intimacy, that khalas? No. It means you work at loving each other and you make the effort in doing whatever it takes to stimulate the other person's needs, but it's not going to happen anymore like we see each other and that's it, like, get out of my way because I found, like, I want to see my wife. That's not always how it's going to be. Myth number 3. Before we get there, big time attorney, they asked this attorney, number one, like divorce attorney, was saying the number one reason of why 2 people split up is because one person in the marriage thinks that the other person is not human, or forgets that the other person is human. They have this ideal picture of person A, guy or girl, and they think, khalas, like I'm marrying a super servant and all this stuff, and he's good looking and he's looks good in black galabeas and all this stuff. You think that this is, you forget that he's a human and he is going to have faults. And that is the reason why people split up, because they just don't have real pictures. So again, when you're searching for a spouse and you want, and this is typical of guys, you want like supermodel, and I don't know how many times I'm like, why? Like, where are you going to get the supermodel, and what makes you think that you deserve a supermodel? They have this mentality that like, I want the super hot chick, and sorry for the lingo. Girls that get offended. And they think that like that's it. This is all I need. No. We have to understand that these people are real human beings, and not everything is going to be perfect every day. Myth number 3: everything bad in my life will disappear. We get this idea from like the Cinderella story too. I was a peasant sister, whatever, and all of a sudden my foot fits in the perfect slipper, and Prince Charming is the one that, is going to put it on my foot, and that's it. That is from Cinderella. Your problems will not necessarily get better when you get married. Actually, you have to understand that people are coming into relationships with baggage. Again, person is awesome, person loves the Lord, person looks good, person is funny, wonderful. But at the same time, maybe you don't see the person that, like dad, expected perfection of his daughter when she was growing up, and she has to be like, what do you mean you got an A and not an A+? What do you mean you didn't score all the points in your basketball team? What do you mean, like, high expectations? So when this person is coming into the marriage, he or she might be sensitive. He or she might feel like my husband or my wife wants me to be perfect. And you're going to feel like, and she may come in there thinking like, I'm never going to meet, his expectations, and she's like down or he's down on herself, or whatever it may be. And you have to know these people have baggage coming into the marriage. What's other forms of baggage that might be coming into marriage? Past relationships. He treated me this way, she treated me this way, whether it be good or bad. Maybe you're not the winer and diner type, but you're a good, solid husband or wife. But the winer and diner type, when you feel down on yourself, seems great. And Mr. Cheapo over here doesn't want to, buy me like a fancy ring or take me out to a fancy dinner, when he's thinking, no, like I'm actually saving for a expensive vacation 2 years from now, but I just need to save up. He's thinking like, I like things to be moderate, I don't like to live very extravagant, I don't want people to know how rich I am. Stuff like, you have people that have these mentalities, and you're thinking, Mr. Right or Mrs. Right before used to wine and dine me, and I'm not getting it here. And you have this expectation, and that value is going to come to the relationship. You may be doing everything you can be doing to be a perfect husband, but you can't fulfill that gap. You have no idea it's there. Marriage is not like a substitute for spiritual work in your life. So don't think that your husband or your wife or the significant other that you one day dream to be married to is going to be able to heal all your pains and troubles in your life. The only person that can heal your pains and your troubles is God. And maybe God will give the grace to your husband or wife to do that. But ultimately, the main source is God. Something that people have to understand. He or she will not heal all the hurt that you have inside. You just need Mr. Right to come and thump on you and make you feel like, you're the best and he loves you and all this stuff. May not heal you. You need spiritual healing. All of us need healing spiritually to fix ourselves. You need to make yourself the perfect groom or bride for that perfect bride or groom. So, for example, the people that are looking for Mr. Right, Mr. Perfect, or the guy that's looking for supermodel, superwoman, and you have to ask yourself, am I the perfect person? Am I the perfect husband for a perfect wife? Have I made myself the perfect husband for the perfect wife when you're choosing a spouse? These are things that you have to be able to say, like, don't look for him to be perfect. To solve, you have to fix yourself. You have to fix your own problems, your own hurts, your own healing, and come to God. And of course, your spouse is there to support you. But your spouse is not a magician to just snap his fingers and touch you in the right way, or to tell you how much he loves you in the right way, and that's it. You're going to be healed. Only God can do these things. Lastly, fourth myth is my spouse will make me whole. If you think that your spouse will make you whole and will be that soulmate that you were just waiting for, you're living in a dream world, number one. Number two, you're looking for an idol that only God can fill. You are thinking, you are worshiping the concept of marriage that this guy is going to make me whole, I'm going to feel complete, I'm no longer going to be lonely, I'm no longer going to feel empty, I'm no longer going to feel whatever it may be, and he is not going to be able to fill every hole in your life. So, my spouse will make me whole. Is not true. It's not necessarily going to happen. And when it doesn't happen, does that mean that you married the wrong person? What do you think? A lot of people think, I don't feel complete, I don't feel whole. I married the wrong guy, or I start to regret. Thinking like, I didn't marry Mr. Right or Mrs. Right. I got into the wrong person. I know if I would have married her, then for sure I would have felt whole. We need to get out of these fairy tale myths. I'm going to end the talk here. But I just want to talk about myths that everybody has, so that when we talk about choosing a significant other in the future, in the next few weeks, we have a real idea of what we're getting into. It's not all fireworks and Disneyland and Cinderella and the supermodels and all. It's not all that. There's a reality to marriage that we don't see every day, that you don't see on TV, that you don't maybe see in all these like fairy tale stories, that we need to be aware of. Marriage will not make you complete. Marriage will not make you whole. Marriage will not make all the bad things go away. Marriage will not make, so if you have a good relationship, it's not necessarily going to get much better because you got married. It doesn't mean that. These are things that we have to understand. Anybody confused, upset, discouraged to get married? Monastic life, here I come. Marriage is an awesome thing. And I'm going to talk about that later. Marriage is the best thing in the world. But there's also really bad things that you have to take into the Christian life. Christian life is the best thing in the world. Life with Jesus is the best, but there are some crosses that you have to carry. And it is not a Christian life without a cross. Do we understand that? If you think that there's no cross in the Christian life, you're not a Christian. you don't have a real picture of what the Christian life is. And so, same thing with marriage. There's going to be downs. There's going to be hurts and pains and frustrations and arguments and blowing up. The most important thing to a marriage is not love. It's commitment. Like, it's unconditional commitment. I'm committed to you no matter what. When you get married to someone, do you ever think, wow, what if this person one day is going to end up with cancer? And what if this person does end up with cancer? What if this person ends up with some disease that, like, he's going to need me to change his diapers from age, like, 35 till the day he dies? I don't mean to scare you, but I'm saying, when you choose this person, I'm committed to you. I'm going to change your diapers if it's from tomorrow. I'm going to wash your feet. I'm going to carry you when you're down, and when your husband, who has this great career, loses his job and can't find a job for like 5 years. I'm going to support you. I'm going to love you. And I'm committed to you. And just because the guy at my work, who's the upper management, makes me feel good, does not mean that my husband, who can't find a job for 5 years, is the bad guy. I'm committed to you. Number one thing that is needed in relationships and marriage is commitment, not love. Love is workable. Love is a gift of the Holy Spirit. But what you do need is commitment. You need to say, that's it. I'm in it to win it. No matter what happens to this person, no matter what happens in our life, no matter how this person deals with trauma, I am committed to you 100%, to support you, to be there for you. Who's committed to who? You got to say, not you're committed to me. No, I'm committed to you. We always go into relationships saying, what am I going to get out of it? You're on the wrong track. You're on the wrong track. What am I going to do for someone? If you go into a relationship that way, you're going to have a more realistic picture of giving. And when you give, you're automatically going to receive. Because nobody who is flooded with love and compassion and is going to feel not compelled to respond in the right way, though. So, for example, there's love languages. There's languages that people understand. So, maybe my wife just wants me to say, I love you, and just spend quality time. Here I am making $1 million at work, buying her the beautiful car, giving her a big house, and giving her all the fancy diamonds in the world. And she's like, when are you going to spend time with me? I'm like, what? Just gave you a $10,000 diamond. I just got you an expensive car, and you're telling me what I'm like, all this isn't love? She speaks Chinese, he's speaking Spanish, they don't understand. She wants to hear, she only will see love through the words, I love you, or quality time, taking the day off to spend time with me. His is like gifts. So you get him a gift, and he's going to feel loved. Tell me I love you, I don't care. Like, it's my birthday. What do we got here? What do you got hiding? You have to have real pictures. A real picture of what marriage is. Any questions or comments? It's like, man, marriage stinks.
Are you maybe addressing this in the future talk, but like the role of the other person kind of as like a helping, where part of the giving and part of the receiving, and you may give and sometimes you may not get back, but like what this means for your own personal growth, spirituality, and development.
We can address that in the talk, because that's a big talk. That's kind of how I started out the talk in the beginning, where I said, sometimes you give 90, and you only get 10 back. Sometimes you get 90, and you're only given 10 out. 10% out of 100%. So there's that whole, like, don't expect, like, you may just be giving and giving and giving and getting, like, very little. We'll talk about rules and all that stuff later. Any other questions or comments?
I don't know if you were going to talk about just like the wholesome thing, because I know you just mentioned that, but like someone was talking to me and they're saying like the only person that can make you whole is Christ himself, and you should never even think about marriage unless you're whole. And we were talking about the verse that says godliness with contentment is great gain. So if you're not content in the situation that you're in now, today, you will never be content. Like the best thing about Egyptians is we're always like saying Outbella. Like when you become this, like, the kids are 1 year old or whatever, we say like Outbella when they get married, or like when, like we're always looking for the future, but no one is ever like living in today. Like, we're always saying, like, tomorrow the kids are going to get married, or tomorrow the kids are going to graduate, or tomorrow I'll get married, and then when I get married, oh, it's not going well, so maybe we'll have kids, or when we have kids, like, so on. We like, if we're not content today, we're never going to gain. Like, so I think that's kind of...
Definitely. Contentment now does not, I mean, which is the kind of like these myths of like, when I get married, things will be better. No. Be happy now, and when God is ready, or when you are ready, or even if you're not ready, maybe marriage isn't for everybody. And again, I'm going to go back to my statement. Maybe you think you are down and depressed because you're lonely. I would much rather you be down and depressed, single, than down and depressed, divorced. I think everybody here agrees. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be down and depressed. You're thinking, I don't get married. No. There can be contentment without marriage. And there can be fulfillment, and there can be an excellent, beautiful life out there in singleness. So don't feel that like, if I am not married, or I don't get married, or whatever, it's the end. No. But does it mean like, okay, that I give up? No. Still make the effort, but come to a point where God is going to make it clear to you whether it's your calling to be single or married. Oh yeah, by the way, marriage is not a contract. Contracts have, when I was talking about like the whole commitment thing, clauses. If he does, I will do. If she does, I will do. That's what contracts have. For lawyers in the room? Any lawyers? It's commitment. It's not a contract. It's not like we can break this contract. You cannot break. You are committed for life. These are the vows before God and for marriages. Any other comments, questions? Glory be to God.